This is a short demo on using gradations in Illustrator. So I have a couple of items here and I'm going to add some gradients to them. So first thing is when you're working with the gradient tool in Illustrator is I would take and drag it away from the palette over on the right. And then I'm going to open up my swatches and I'm actually going to pull that away as well. And so I'm going to then select an item and I'm going to drag a swatch down onto the left-hand side. I've done it wrong, so I'm going to hit Command Z. You need to make sure, so you can actually do gradients along paths as well as gradients on objects. Mostly you're going to be wanting to do gradients along objects. So I'm going to make sure I've selected the object first. Then I'm going to drag this down here. You'll see I get a gradient. You want to make sure that you don't have some odd color in here that you don't expect. So I sometimes will pull this away just to see if there is anything left. And then I'm going to go to a darker color like that. So we have an angle here. Well, let's see, we have a couple of things going on. We have an angle here, so I could change this to 45. Or I could change it to 90. And when we're working here, let me make this a little darker. So, okay, so that's a little bit more visible. I can change where the gradient breaks with this item right here. Okay. I can also add an opacity. So if I click here, let's see, say I go here and I go here. And I'm going to put an object behind it so you can see. Well, that's kind of neat. So like that. Go back and select here. So I can take this point, this color point here, and I can change its opacity. And you can see that it's starting to get transparent. And so that's also possible. And of course, I can set these locations by the numbers if in fact I want to do that. So we have a gradient that goes in a single direction. I could then go over here, go there, make it -90, and then it would go the other way, like that. If I want to add other colors, I can just pull additional colors down here. My personal opinion is that I think it's better to have subtle gradations than really bold, crazy gradations. That's just my feeling about it. I feel like in nature, you have more subtle gradations than crazy gradations. So of course, you know, in the winter, if you have a leaf You might have, let's see. You might have a leaf that would be more like that. And then I would possibly have, trying to remember. I'm going to try this. And then orange. And then back to green. And then you might have something that looks like, well, and here's where I show you the other tool. I can go here. And I can go to there. And I'm going to say that I'm not really all that familiar with the Freeform Gradient. Okay, Preform Gradient. Okay. So Freeform Gradient allows a little bit crazier gradients. And again, I don't really know what this does, so I'm just experimenting. Huh. Wow. Okay, kind of fancy. Right. So I'm going to go Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, till I get back to normal. I would say that if you're experimenting with something like this, I'd experiment with a copy, because I don't know what it'll take to actually remove that gradient. What if I go like that? Oh, okay, so that got rid of that gradient. So back to here, back to there. So then we have, so there is the swatches over here. There is the gradient tool here. And then we have another tool over in the toolbox called the gradient tool. And when we go to the gradient tool there, what we get is that we can, wow, wonder how that happened. Okay. That reverses the gradient. So the reason, so this is all a little difficult to deal with, but I can move, if I'm lucky, So I can create a gradient that is in an oval shaped as opposed to a circle. I can, if I can manage to find how to do it, I can actually, I can make it bigger, I can make it smaller. This is with the gradient tool over here. And there is some way I can change where colors are on the gradient. I've got the little diamond shape to change where it changes at. I can adjust this color over here. The trick is to get that to move. Okay, so that's the center of it. Center of the gradient. So I can move that around. And this point is the center of this circle. If I go to the line version, then it gives me a straight line. I can pick one side or the other side. Okay, so then finally, I wanted to talk about this item. So I can take this item, I can go to the gradient tool, I can do that, and do that, and do that. And that kind of looks nice. I can do 90 degrees, wrong way, minus 90, like that. But more interestingly is the radial gradient. That gives me a radial gradient in the center, but I can also go to the gradient tool and I can move this up here. Command Z. So apparently this is much more finicky than it used to be. I'm going to move that away from this point and move it up here. If I put it right in the center, it's going to behave itself the best. I'll watch out that that goes like that. Huh. Okay. So that is apparently how that works these days. I can grab this handle here. I might really want to have it more towards the center of this circle so that it doesn't cause any big problems, and then I can drag it that way. And I can go and go like that. I can double click on the color. I can reduce the color that way. And I get something that looks fairly 3D looking. And I can actually take this and extend it a little farther and take that green, and I can option drag that over here, double click on it, make it a little darker. Okay, like that. Command Z. And so you can take something and make it look fairly 3D just using this rather tricky gradient tool over here. And then if one wants to create a drop shadow underneath here, then I can create an oval, an ellipse. I can set it to that. I can set it to well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this. Remove that, remove that. Actually, I'm going to just go to black, black, and black. That's the center. So I'm going to take the center and tell the opacity to be 50. And then I'm going to take this and tell the opacity to be 0. And more than 70. Go to the gradient tool. Notice how this is like that. So you need to grab it by the handle like that. And then I can drag it like that and drag it like that. I want it to be fully within the oval so it doesn't get cut off. So again, I'm going to grab it by the handle there, like that. I'm going to take that object, arrange, send back. I can take the whole thing and enlarge it. And the nice thing about what I've just done with this, since I used 100% black and used various opacities, that I can in fact take this, Command Shift back. And so that color shows through, but even better than that, I can select that, go to my transparency, go to multiply, and then I get a fairly real looking shadow. Like that, even though it's a very complex background. Okay, so I would just practice using this gradient tool. It takes Clearly, it takes me time to work with it, and it changes sensitivity and sensitivity and how it works as they change the versions of InDesign. And finally, I'm going to take and group that. And we can make a stem. Take that, take a dark brown, turn the opacity to 100, get rid of that, get rid of that. It's not a bad color. Oh, and I still have a problem where I've managed to join these two. So I'm going to scissor it. And then it does something like that. And that'll have to do for the time being. Okay, thanks.